Hi and welcome back to another episode. On this one I'll be showing you how to remove the oil cooler and the associated lines to an Alfa V6 on my GTV. It's a very common thing that I'll need replacing on your GTV. They are very common for leaking. It's well covered across the internet, but what isn't is an actual DIY video. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so there you've got the oil cooler, the stainless steel flexible lines which go onto the hard lines. You've got that bracket underneath holding those in place, and then it goes up behind the sump straight to the banjo bolts holding the lines to the back of the engine. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is obviously remove your oil filter. These can be quite stiff to remove sometimes, so I used a proper tool just to crack it off, which is just one of many tools he inherited from my late grandfather. Once I've cracked that off, nice and easy to remove by hand. Now obviously, being an oil filter, you can expect a bit of oil to come out of that. So I've got a drain pan underneath just to catch everything. I was quite surprised how many threads were on this as well, to be honest. But out it comes, nice and easy, no problems. And then with that out of the way, you can see the top banjo bolt holding that in place. And that is a 24mm, which you can get at easily with a normal spanner. It is quite tight, but still relatively easy to remove. One thing you need to consider is you are working next to those connections on the alternator, so you will need to disconnect your battery or stay well away from those connections, because you touch those with a spanner and they will spark. Now as soon as you just crack those banjo bolts off even just a little bit, they are very easy to remove by hand. So that's disconnected now. Onto line number 2. Now this one is a bit of a pain because access is very, very limited. And you will notice this nut here right underneath that is almost butt up to that banjo bolt, preventing you from getting any kind of spanner on or anything. So what I did is I removed this nut, 10mm, which is just one of many holding on the oil filter housing. But another problem is you've got a thread sticking out from the back of the starter motor, which prevents you from getting a ratchet on or socket. And even with that nut removed, you struggle to get a spanner on there properly. You can only get it on halfway. Now you could probably get at that with a different kind of spanner, but unfortunately I don't have access to any of those. So what I did to overcome this problem is, it doesn't look pretty, but I fabricated it in just a few minutes, is I've got lots of old miscellaneous sockets in the drawer in my garage. So what I did is I got a 24mm socket, just cut the end of it off, and I welded it onto a piece of flat bar. As I say, it doesn't look pretty, but it did the job for me. And that solved all my problems. And that was enough just to crack that 24mm banjo bolt off. And then again, the rest you can do by hand. So out that comes. And you can believe me when I say that I struggled getting some light and camera work done on this. So that's the second one loose. So now you need to work your way down the lines to the bracket underneath. And that bracket is held on by two 13mm bolts. You've got one at the front, just here, just underneath your AC compressor, and another one just at the side. Now what I did is I removed this bolt completely, but the other bolt I loosened, so the bracket was nice and loose, but I kept it in place just to support the pipes. I do have ratchet spanners, but sometimes I'm a bit lazy and I use what I've got to hand. We all do it. So with those banjo bolts disconnected and the bracket underneath very loose, now you need to go onto the oil cooler itself, and that is held on to the bracket with two 13mm bolts. You will find that those are quite corroded and oxidized. They are a bit stiff, but they do come out quite easily. And with those two removed, then hey presto, you can take everything off in one piece. And there you have it, guys. Oil cooler and pipes removed. Job done. So here's my oil cooler out on the bench. The oil cooler itself isn't too bad. It is the original one, probably 19 years old. The unions, however, although they're not leaking, they are badly corroded, and it's only a matter of time. But I needed to remove all this stuff just as part of my underside restoration. Flexi hoses, stainless, not too bad. And I've got the ends, the banjo bolts, in a bucket because they will continue to leak oil. And here's all the hardware I removed, ready for bagging up. I've got the two 13mm bolts holding the oil cooler itself to the bracket. And then I've got the bracket that holds the pipework in place from underneath, together with bolts. And then the two banjo bolts themselves with 4 copper washers. And last but not least, the trusty tool which I made, and I'll use that again to put the new oil cooler lines back in place. So there you have it, guys. I hope this video has been useful to you. If you like what you saw today, then please like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you for more videos. Thank you very much. Cheers.